So Ashley Allum and Emily Pickett are two remarkable young women living with gastroparesis. So I've had the honour to get to know both Ashley and Emily, and I know that they have riveting stories that need to be shared. So it's a great pleasure to introduce Emily Pickett, our first patient speaker.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Emily. Today, along with Ashley, we are here to speak with you about gastroparesis from the perspective of a patient. We are not here in search of individualised sympathy, but to simply explain to you the everyday and life-changing implications that come with having this gastrointestinal disorder. To look at, you, as many have done and continue to do, may think that I look completely fine, that I must not be that sick. What many do not realise, however, is that not every illness is naked to the public eye. Gastroparesis is an illness that for most, including myself, develops out of nowhere with no explanation. Gastroparesis, with no warning, changes a patient's life in an instant. My battle with gastroparesis began at the age of 13. I began suffering with abdominal bloating after eating, which became progressively worse. Along with the bloating, I was becoming extremely fatigued and would suffer from body tremors and shaking. As time went on, at the age of 16, I was training day and night in pursuit of competing at the Australian Age National Swimming Championships. I continued to ignore my symptoms, putting it all down to the fact that I may have been growing or not sleeping well enough. The symptoms soon became unbearable, to the point where I could not move after eating, even after only consuming small portions of food. The pain that I felt cannot be described and is like nothing I had ever experienced before. I had been to a number of general practitioners by this point in time, where I had been tested for absolutely everything, all of which said that they were unable to determine an answer and that I best go and see a psychologist because what I was experiencing was all in my head. After being hospitalised on many occasions due to the severe pain and extensive bloating, but constantly coming out with no answers, apart from nurses telling me that I look 7 months pregnant, you do begin to question yourself. You wonder if it is all in your head and if you are making it all up. Irritable bowel syndrome was brought up at every consultation. I was told to follow a low FODMAP diet, which quite frankly felt like it nearly killed me. It was so frustrating to have doctors continually resorting back to IBS because nothing else was seemingly visible as an explanation. But I knew in myself that IBS was not the cause of my agonising pain. Hearing those 3 letters made me increasingly frustrated and anxious every time I set foot into a doctor's clinic. I was unable to wear most of my clothing because nothing would physically fit over my stomach. I would be found lying on the floor in tears daily due to the severity of the cramping and burning in my stomach and the sharp nerve pains that seemingly shoot through your body. You constantly feel sick, completely exhausted after walking inside your home from the car, and often collapsing on the floor after only taking a shower. The unknown is cruel, not only for those who suffer, but for the families and friends who feel helpless watching it all unfold. Visiting gastroenterologist Dr. Jared Wilson in Burnie, Tasmania 6 years ago finally generated reason and an explanation for the symptoms I had been experiencing. Upon reviewing one of my past ultrasounds from the emergency department, Dr. Wilson observed that my stomach was 4 times the size of what it should have been. I undertook a gastric emptying study, which determined that I only digested 1% of the food that I consumed. This affirmed the diagnosis of gastroparesis. I am a patient who is quite uncommon, as for reasons unknown, I cannot safely take any offered medications to help relieve the symptoms of gastroparesis. Unfortunately, I have experienced severe reactions with them all, being admitted to hospital on a number of occasions due to a deregulation of my heart and paralytic-like symptoms. The only other option, as you would all know, is tube feeding, and this is something that I personally do not wish to partake in. Too often, I have witnessed gastroparesis patients agonise with this form of treatment, continually suffering with infections. This causes even more pain and misery for patients, but unfortunately, there is no other option. This will be my last resort. Currently, I rely solely on dietary modifications to manage my symptoms. And no, this does not relieve the pain, but it does help manage some discomfort and bloating. People often ask me, what does the pain actually feel like? And I do find it quite difficult to describe. It feels like someone lights a fire in your stomach of a morning that becomes hotter and spreads further throughout your body as the day goes on. It feels like someone is inside of your stomach, twisting it as tight as they can until it tears. It feels like knife stabbing pain, like a ton of bricks are weighing down on you. You feel sick and anxious in your stomach 24/7. And yes, this is what patients with gastroparesis experience every single day. It has become normal for me to be in constant discomfort. I cannot remember a day within the past 7 years where I have not been in pain. When I was first diagnosed with gastroparesis, I had never heard of the condition, nor could I pronounce the word properly either. I felt as if I was suffering alone. I had never heard of anyone who had this condition. Of course, when I got home, the first thing I did, which was the best and worst thing I could have done, was Google it. I found a girl of a similar age in America who was a gymnast and detailed a list of symptoms that resembled mine. The first thing I wanted to do was find her phone number and address and go and talk to her with a million questions. The only problem was that she was on the other side of the world. I kept researching, breaking down in tears, overwhelmed with the information I was reading about how debilitating the condition can become. To be bedridden, unable to consume any food and dependent upon others. To read this at any age is distressing, but to be 17 with your whole life ahead of you is heart-wrenching. It is a scary thought, the unknown, to have doctors shaking their heads with no answers, no reasons and no explanations. Being diagnosed with gastroparesis has had a significant impact upon my life and has carried with it a host of additional problems, such as weight loss, rheumatoid arthritis, Raynaud's phenomenon, chronic fatigue, autoimmune disorders, a little to no immune system, reoccurring infections, endometriosis, muscle weakness, constant brain fog, hair loss, pale skin, cramping, constant pins and needles, severe constipation, sleepless nights and anxiety. People often comment and say that I don't look sick. To begin with, this was frustrating to have people judge my condition solely on my physical appearance. To be unaware of the nature of the condition and the significant impacts that I was and am still undergoing internally. Not every illness is visible to the naked eye, and it is amazing what a bit of makeup can do. For me, I struggle to go out in public without it. I'm sure that you can understand that when your face is as white as a sheet of paper, your eyes are circled with black rings, and you have people constantly telling you that you look tired. You can quite easily take this on board mentally. I'm constantly reminded that I am not well enough by the pain that I endure daily, and I, for one, will not allow this condition to control my way of life. So, to look normal on the outside is a way of coping. To blend in with everyone else makes things just that little bit easier. And I know that many gastroparesis sufferers experience these same feelings. Gastroparesis has turned my life upside down, as it has for every patient, and has tested the boundaries mentally, physically, and emotionally. I believe, however, that it is important to find the good in what may seem to be the worst, by altering your perspective on the circumstance that you have been dealt. Gastroparesis has taught me that I am strong enough to tackle anything. The unknown of this chronic illness is scary, as each day presents itself with different challenges. many of which have no answers. And although the pain, nausea, and fatigue never goes away, you develop faith in yourself to just keep going and to be resilient. With the generosity and support from the Rotary Club of Devonport in Tasmania and the Australian Rotary Health, we have successfully been able to raise much needed funds and awareness for research into gastroparesis. This, in fact, is currently being conducted by not one, but 2 PhD students right here at the University of Western Sydney, under the support of the Australian Rotary Health Research Scholarships. It must be commended that it is previously unheard of for Australian Rotary Health to allow 2 research scholarships to be running simultaneously on the one condition. But due to the support gastroparesis is receiving in Tasmania alone, they were persuaded, as they too believe that such research is ever so much needed in fighting for a cure for gastroparesis. Myself and Ashley are only 2 of the over 125,000 gastroparesis patients within Australia alone, and we are determined, like many, to continue to fight for gastroparesis, as we hope that you all do too. Through events like this one you are all attending here today, we are able to broaden awareness of gastroparesis, generate change, and ignite hope for those affected by the condition. I would personally like to thank the Rotary Club of Devonport for initiating and continually supporting the Australian Rotary Health Research Scholarships being conducted, as well as Vincent Ho and his team here at the University of Western Sydney. We must continue to bind together from every angle if we are to successfully conquer gastroparesis. There are some amazing and selfless people within our community who have put themselves forward to contribute to what I believe, and hopefully you also believe, to be an extremely worthy cause. I would like to finish by acknowledging and thanking you all for being here today. It means a lot to myself, as someone who suffers with gastroparesis, to know that all corners of the health profession are coming together in support of fighting for gastroparesis. On behalf of all gastroparesis patients, we are forever grateful for this and am extremely hopeful for what the future holds. Thank you.
Have a seat, Emily.
Hi, my name is Ashley and I have been a patient of Dr. Vincent Ho for the last 6 years. When I was first diagnosed with gastroparesis, I didn't know anything about it, and it was a very frightening time for me. Through countless appointments with him, I not only learned a lot about gastroparesis, but about the man himself and about how passionate he was about spreading awareness for such an unknown condition. To help create an even stronger message, Dr. Ho thought it would be a wonderful idea for me to share my story and struggles for others to see. From that point, I've been involved with spreading awareness as best I can. The hardest point was trying to explain gastroparesis for those who do not have it. In my mind, I felt like it was all made up and I couldn't make sense of it. Until one night, I started to write down all my feelings down on my phone. In the end, I created a poem that I believe best describes it. In 2012, my life had changed. Just like that, my diet had to be drastically rearranged. Felt like a cold that came on real quick. Just woke up one morning feeling incredibly sick. No words can describe how this feels when all I can eat are really small meals. To go from feeling healthy to oh so sick the next, this unknown illness seems to have everyone completely perplexed. Pain, nausea, and fullness too. These are the words that describe my illness for you. Just what, you may ask, is this terrible condition that has left me in a less than favourable position? It's called gastroparesis, an illness where the stomach doesn't digest any food it has in there. What causes this to happen, I cannot say, for I have been asking myself that same question every single day. Having a support network is really important, and that's why it was fundamental to create a Facebook page that allows for other people who are suffering from the same condition to share their stories. This site is called Gastroparesis, the Inside Story. Membership was slow to start, with only about 3 people. However, over the last 3 years, it has grown to over 200 and is growing every day. As a lead administrator for this site, I'm incredibly proud of the success it has had so far. Gastroparesis, the Inside Story, is a private site for those who are already a part of the group, the opportunity to speak freely without fear of judgment or being criticised. We are there to create a safe environment for all involved. There is also a secondary Facebook site known as Gastroparesis Australia. This is a public site that was created by Annalise, a fellow GP warrior. On this site, you will find a video that I was a part of that was beautifully put together, and along with the individual stories of those affected by gastroparesis.
Hi, I'm Christy Caspers.
I'm Emma.
My name is Charmaine.
My name's Kristen.
My name is Bridget.
My name is Justine.
I'm Karen.
Hi, I'm Sandra.
My name's Ashley.
My name is Jodie. My name is Emily.
My name is Annalise, and I've had gastroparesis for 10 years.
And I've been suffering from gastroparesis since I was 8.
10 years now.
For 5 years.
For probably about 20 years.
I got diagnosed with gastroparesis in 2012.
In December 2014.
I was diagnosed in 2010.
18 months ago.
And I've been suffering from gastroparesis since 2012.
Gastroparesis makes me feel like my mind is disconnected from my body. It's a gamble every morning when I wake up, how I'm going to feel that day and how I'm going to function.
Makes me feel like I'm starving to death.
I would say the biggest issue that I have with how it makes me feel is the burden that I am on everybody else, particularly my children. I battle with feeling like maybe they'd be better off without me, and my constant hospital admissions, and then the other side of my brain thinks, well, at least they've got a mother, whether she's sick or not.
Having gastroparesis makes me feel like an entirely different person. Every day is different. I never know what to expect. It just feels like my life has been taken away from me.
Frustrated with my body, the fact that my mind says that I can do one thing and yet the body says no, that it can't, and frustrated at the number of doctors that I had to go to and the number of surgeries and procedures that I had to have before the gastroparesis was finally diagnosed.
Having gastroparesis can make you feel scared. You don't know what you're going to feel like one day to the other, so it's very unpredictable and scary.
Gastroparesis has turned my life upside down. I have to feed for 15 to 17 hours overnight. I don't know how I'm going to feel in the morning. I can't take my children to school at the best of times. I can't make plans. I don't know what's going to happen. It frustrates me because I've always been really independent and it's been taken away from me.
I'm a 21-year-old who is tube fed, which is embarrassing. It affects every single aspect of my life. It's ruined parts of my life. And it's hard to know that I might be suffering every single day for the rest of my life.
As you can see, I'm still in hospital at the moment. I've had gate leave to get here. I've spent the last 4 months straight in hospital. So it's actually sad because it ultimately affects relations between husbands, wives, sons, daughters. It does the whole thing.
Gastroparesis has changed my life in the sense that I used to look forward to doing things. I look forward to going on holidays, but now it's daunting. I look forward to going out for dinner, but now it's non-existent.
Having gastroparesis has changed my life massively. I'm on a feeding tube 24 hours a day. I've had surgeries, so many tests. I spent a ridiculous amount of time in hospitals. I had to leave school because of gastroparesis, so I was in hospital and I was unable to do my HSC. So I could only do 2-hour days at school, and I couldn't do it every day at school, so I missed a lot of my education.
So it's certainly changed every aspect of my life, taken away so many things that I used to like to do, like running and marathons and triathlons, which I can no longer do.
You've got to think twice about what you eat, when you eat, how you eat it. It's just not good.
My life has been completely altered, really. I'm unable to work. I can't socialise the way that I used to. It's changed the relationship with my husband. He's amazing, although we very rarely go out socially. I can't eat, which is, a normal everyday thing that is so taken for granted. It's just really hard.
Gastroparesis makes me feel trapped.
Exhausting.
Isolating.
It's accidentatious.
Burden.
Daunting.
Uncontrollable.
Unpredictable.
Crap.
Debilitating.
Purgatory.
Horrible. It makes me feel horrible. And I don't wish this upon anyone.
To see that there are other people that actually understand what I'm going through, not just empathise with it, is incredible, and it gives me a strength that I didn't know I had.
Open eye, feel the waves cut through me, hypnotized by the sounds I'm breathing in. Hold tight, chemicals collide. Hold tight, hold tight, hold tight. Dripping lights paint the skies, all because of you. Dripping lights paint the skies, only you. So alive.
I've seen that numerous times and it still gets to me. From a personal point of view, the inside story gives me a chance to connect with others who have been suffering from the chronic illness. Having a social life is somewhat difficult, and it has given me the sense of belonging, and because of this, many strong friendships have been formed. Talking face-to-face with others has allowed me to feel less isolated, with every emotion and thought being validated by this group. I cannot stress the importance of awareness and information needed. Patients are often confused and scared themselves before official diagnosis, going through ongoing tests and failed treatments. So knowing there is this need for health professionals to be aware of the symptoms and consider gastroparesis in at-risk groups can significantly reduce patient anxiety. Sorry, I'm nervous. I am incredibly blessed to have been a part of this group, and I never thought my story would reach so many. I always had a saying that if I could reach one person, then that is a huge achievement in itself. Even though a terrible condition has brought so many people together, it has given us more strength and courage to fight through a never-ending battle. Gastroparesis warriors unite. Thank you.
Okay, so look, that was really amazing. There were some amazing stories there. Does anyone have any questions for Emily or Ashley?
Thank you very much for telling us your story. I'm incredibly impressed by your courage. A question to you and then to the general audience. I notice a predominance of young females in your pictures. Is that also borne out by the number of people that have registered to be part of Gastroparesis Australia? That's my question to one or both of you.
I think Vincent can answer half of this question. I can probably help answering with the second part. With the gastroparesis awareness campaign that was done in March last year, we had about 10 females that were age ranging between, I think, 17 and 40. And it was just an incredible outlook to know that it wasn't just us that were suffering from this condition. And it gave us the sense of familiarity and, I don't know, a sense of belonging as well. And I guess it was somewhat overwhelming for us as well. So there are a lot of young women, because we found that it affected more young women than men. Not saying that it doesn't affect men also, but we found that with the group that we had, it affected them more. But Vincent may be able to help answer the first part of it.
I completely agree with that. Certainly we found that there's a high percentage of women that have gastroparesis, and overwhelmingly we're seeing a lot in young women, and I think that would correlate with a lot of the literature. And I think it's also salient to note that it's many of the young women that are actively involved with engagement. So the engagement promoting the awareness, the message of gastroparesis, they're the ones really doing the driving effort.
Can I just ask us another question? And that is, I wonder, we've heard about the investigations that we can do for gastroparesis. I wonder if we shouldn't be doing another one, and that is arranging for deep gastric mucosal biopsies to see if there's any evidence of autoimmune attack on the ICC.
Yeah, look, I think that's a really good question, and it's a question that we might look at addressing perhaps with the expert panel in the late afternoon. I think there certainly is a role for deep tissue biopsies. Certainly can shed more information, but I think we'll talk about that with the expert panel, if that's okay. Yes.
Hi girls, great stories. It's really nice to hear people, especially young girls, say their personal stories out loud. It is quite a personal journey, so good job for telling that. I just have a question for you guys. We may have talked about this before, but especially young women, there's an epidemic of us, but getting the help we need. Have you ever run into expectations from doctors kind of regarding it, as you said, is all in your head or eating disorders, and you've been stuck in that for a while?
Yeah, I haven't come across the eating disorder part of it significantly, because with my condition, vomiting isn't something that occurs regularly for me. But I have had that psychological, that was something that was really apparent to start off with before I got the diagnosis. I think that was also because the doctors that I was going to in Tasmania, we're very limited to the doctors that you can see and the resources that they have available there. So that psychological side of it was, yeah, for me it was very hard to deal with to start off with, because I did feel that I was alone and I'd never heard of it before. So to start off with, yeah, you do get into that space where you think that you are making it all up and that what you are experiencing may not necessarily be something that's actually real. But I think having the Facebook pages and things like that now, having those communities where you can speak to people that have the condition like you, and you can ask any question, even you may think it's ridiculous, but we all have the same thoughts. So I think having that space where you can go and you can talk about anything and know that everyone else within that group feels exactly the same thing, I think is really, really positive. And I think it's only going to keep growing. which is really good.
There's nothing more I can elaborate on. You're absolutely correct.
Thank you.